All right, I'm ready if you're ready.
Let's hit it.
All right. Well, thank you, Tim, for being a willing participant of our new podcast called Beyond Recovery. We're just asking people what their stories like. And first of all, if you don't mind introducing yourself, giving us your street cred, and then I'll ask you one question, and then poof, the show's yours.
All right. Well, I'm Tim W. I'm a alcoholic and an addict.
All right. What would you tell? First question, then again, it's open. What would you tell yourself with your knowledge now to help yourself,
Oof.
your previous self, when you were deep in abusing the things? What would you say to yourself now that you're in this time?
Wow. There's a lot of things I would say. I would say that you don't have to be miserable. That there is hope. Um, that you can heal. Um, that being clean and being sober, it can be a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun, and it's uh, it's a good life.
Awesome. Tell us your story. When did this start? When did you?
Um, well, it goes back to, man, like when I was a little kid. I remember like being probably in fifth or sixth grade the first time I got drunk. My parents owned a bar, so it made it easy. I think it happened the first time I got drunk. It happened by accident. I didn't expect it to happen, and I know I didn't like it. But as I grew older, um, I had four brothers, and they're all my brothers are alcoholics or addicts or both. And my dad was a alcoholic, and he was not a nice person, and I didn't like him.
Hmm.
And as a kid, he never had a kind word to say, and he was. I always felt like he was a tax on me, uh, like just a burden, just somebody I did not want to be around and didn't give a shit about. And when by the time I was 15, I had just turned 15 actually. Uh, Early in my freshman year of high school, he succumbed to his alcoholism and died from cirrhosis.
Hmm.
And but by the time that happened, I was using drugs and alcohol just to numb myself from a lot of abuse that I had experienced prior to that, as a kid, sexual abuse and emotional abuse in the family. And so I was trying to numb myself, and at the same time hating what uh, alcohol was doing to my family. And it was very easy for me to do so because, like I said, my parents owned a bar, so it was readily available. So we lived in the same building as the bar. So as soon as my mom went to bed, I could go snatch liquor for free. It was easy, and that became a pattern all through high school. Um, Smoked a lot of weed. Ended up doing a lot of cocaine and other drugs with people that came into the bar. Um, and During my time growing up as a kid, as in high school, my older brother, who was addict and alcoholic, um, was very violent when he drank, and he eventually smashed up a car and flipped it, rolled it a bunch of times, and ended up basically killing himself. But it took a long time. He was in a coma for a long time before he died. And I
How old were
remember,
you when that happened?
I think I was like 16.
Dad at 15.
My dad died at 15.
Your
My
brother.
brother got in an accident when I was 16 and died when I think I was 17.
Wow.
He spent 34 months in a coma.
Whoa.
And I remember thinking when he got in his accident, he wouldn't be molesting me in the middle of the night anymore. So I was like, oh, this is okay. I'm cool with this. And I was tired of his violence. He would get drunk and he would just argue with my mom and ended up smashing stuff in the house and just it was all chaos. My childhood it was torture. It was literally torture, emotional, sexual, physical torture. It was just horrendous. But I grew up in a rural community, and
This was in Wisconsin.
yeah,
Okay.
it was in Waukesha County in Wisconsin, and I grew up in a rural community, and I just I knew my family was a bunch of hillbillies I didn't want to be around. So when I got the freedom to not be there, I was either on a bike until I got my driver's license, and then when I got my driver's license, I tried never to be home. And I still had I had a younger brother that I was close to that I really looked out for, and I said to myself, if anybody touches this kid in any way, it's going to be a game changer. I'm going to come unglued. So I was kind of protective of him, so I made sure that nothing ever happened to him like that was happening to me, because I knew how painful this was, and I knew that I didn't want anybody else to experience this. So I fast forward. I my mom decided she was going to get rid of the business, and that's all I ever knew was bartending and hanging out with all these addicts and alcoholics that came into the bar. And she sold the business, and that's all I'd ever done was worked in the bar. And now I was out of job, and I was also out of my free chemicals.
Yeah.
So I was 23 when that happened. And I wanted something different. I'd always wanted something different. I didn't like my family. I didn't like the way things were. I always wanted just, I don't know, leave it to Beaver, Little House on the Prairie type family, and it was never going to happen. And so I was pretty desperate. And at 23, I went to a neighbor friend and I asked her to take me to the hospital because I needed treatment. And I had told my mom that I was an alcoholic, and of course, her enabling ask was, her answer was, well, "Why don't you just quit?" So, well, we know how that works, right?
Yeah.
And so a neighbor took me to the hospital, and I did a 30-day inpatient program at 23, and I stayed sober for 18 years.
Wow.
I didn't practice a 12-step program, but I also was not just a dry drunk. So I realized how screwed up my family was, and I did not want to be like that. And so I did a lot of things that none of my family did. I was always kind of the black sheep of the family. So I went to college. I actually graduated with honors, which in no way reflected my high school transcripts.
Okay.
Because I barely made it through high school. And if it wasn't for a couple of teachers and a vice principal in high school, I would not have made it.
Question: when you were 23, went to that 30-day, then you went to college afterwards?
Afterwards,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So you were You
I didn't go to
were,
college right away. I went to college much later.
but you weren't using.
No,
Okay, good, good, good.
no.
Did you live on the campus, or is this?
No, I went to a community college.
Oh, okay, okay.
Um, I traveled the world. I went several different countries all by myself. I decided I wanted to get in a plane and go, so I did. I had always, I still lived in the same redneck community that I lived in, and since I was just a little kid, my earliest memories was I wanted to be a firefighter. So I became a volunteer firefighter, EMT, and I did that for 8 years until I got married and I moved into the city. And so I did all these things that I just found passions and desires, and fulfilled a lot of dreams that I wanted to do. And when I got at 23, one of the first jobs I got after being clean for a while was I went to work for a residential treatment center for juvenile delinquents, and most of them were court ordered there.
They lived there?
Yeah, they lived
Okay.
it was a big farm type campus. There was a lot of kids there.
Okay.
I think like 80.
Wow.
And most of them were there for AODA issues. And
Can you tell the listeners what that is?
what's that?
What is that?
Alcohol and other drug abuse issues.
Oh, okay, okay.
And a lot of them had sexual offense issues that they were sent there for.
Okay.
So there was like underlying issues. And I started working with people that were emotionally intelligent. And I'm working with people that were talking about feelings and how they relate to actions, and they're just speaking this foreign language because feelings was not discussed in my house. And I was like, I want what you guys got. So I really started to pay attention to what was going on at work, and the people that I hung around with at work. I became close with a lot of people that I worked with, and I really cared about the kids that I worked with. And things just started to change rapidly for me. And I grew emotionally because I had never had the opportunity before. And so then I got married. And
How old were you?
I was 31 when I got married.
Okay. You what was your degree in?
At the time I got married is when I went to college.
Oh, okay.
And I got a bachelor's of science in criminal justice administration.
Okay.
And I would not have gone to college if it hadn't been for my wife. She had just finished up her bachelor's in psychology, and she was going for her master's in social work. And I kind of thought I should probably be doing something to better my family if I'm going to have one. So I have to admit I hated college.
Okay, okay.
But I wanted to get through it as fast as possible. So I just excelled. I just poured myself into it. And I poured myself into my new marriage. And I had a new job too. I started working in a jail as a correctional officer. And I wasn't there very long before I got promoted to supervisor. And it was a really cool job. I learned a lot about dealing with people. And it was just a cool job. And so I finished up college while I was still working there, and I applied for the state to be a probation parole agent, and I got hired, and I did that.
All of this is in Wisconsin? College, marriage?
All in Milwaukee.
Oh, okay, okay.
Um, and so I was a probation parole agent here in Milwaukee for 8 years. And most of that 8 years, about 7 of those 8 years, I supervised sex offenders, um, which was very challenging at first. But I also have kind of a curse. When I master something, I get bored with it very quickly. So the job also started to jive with my value system. So I was seeing a lot of things that I didn't agree with the system. I was seeing, you know, two different guys from different ethnic backgrounds do the same crime and have two different outcomes.
Oh, wow.
And that didn't jive with me. And there was a lot of bureaucracy that didn't jive with me. I saw a lot of wasted money. I saw a lot of wasted time. I was locking people up for smoking weed on a Friday and letting them out on Monday, which was not, you know, it took a lot of work, a lot of time, and I didn't agree with it, and so I quit. And I really had no direction. But at the time, I should back up. When while I was married, I also I had told my wife early on that about my sexual abuse, and it came to a point where I realized that I was gay and I could not stay married anymore because it wasn't fair to her and it wasn't fair to me.
Okay.
And I ended up divorced. But during that whole time, I was clean. And shortly, or during my divorce, I went to a dinner party and I had a glass of wine, and it was like somebody turned the faucet on.
Oh, wow.
And I spent the next 10 years or more on the relapse roller coaster. So I get divorced and I got into a relationship that was just draining and toxic. And now I'm in this toxic job and this toxic relationship, and I'm just drinking more and more and more and more. And I ended up quitting my job because I just didn't want to do it anymore. And the toxicity of the job and my relationship, it was just challenging my life too much, and I was drinking too much, and that had a lot to do with it. So I didn't have much drive, and so I ended up, like I said, on the relapse roller coaster for the next 10 years. I went from different jobs. Like I said, I master something and I get bored with it pretty quick. But I also, one thing about the job being a probation parole agent it was very stifling because I have a creative side in my head that there was no creativity in the job. And I really like to be creative. It kind of fuels me. If you look around my place, there's a lot of stuff in here I made, like this coffee table and other things that I've made that I just see something in my head and I can make it. So I ended up I like carpentry, so I'm a self-taught carpenter. So I ended up rehabbing houses for several years and putting in replacement windows and doors for several years, and then that got to be that got to be boring, and I started drinking again. Started smoking a lot of weed. I'd wake up and get high. I'd go to bed. I'd be high. I'd be high all day long, and eventually it got to the point where I ended up in detox a few times, and
During those 10 years.
during that 10 years, I ended up in detox more times than I can even remember.
Wow. What's the longest string of sobriety did you have?
Years.
Multiple years in that 10?
Yeah.
And were you attending AA or nothing?
No.
Okay, nothing. So just
no. I think having 18 years clean helped me a lot because I had tasted success and I liked it. And I was still smoking weed, but I wasn't drinking, so I can't say that I was ever really chemically free. Um, but so I was living outside of the city for a long time, and I ended up in detox one last time about 2.5 years ago, and I was in there and I was realizing that I was losing everything I had again. And I realized how fucked I was. And I was getting evicted from my apartment. Everything that was still in my apartment was going to get thrown out, everything I had worked for. Um, I had no place to go, and my family was not talking to me. They had nothing to do with me. I had no friends left. And I I just realized how fucked I was, like I said. And I got on my knees and I prayed to God. I said, God, if you don't desert me, I promise you I'll do the work. And instantly things changed around. And I mean instantly. I was in a detox place here in Milwaukee that's pretty notoriously terrible. And I actually got somebody that worked there that bent over backwards to help me, got me pointed in the direction of housing. Like a day after I had prayed to God, I called my brother, who didn't have anything to do with me, and said, he said, I went to your apartment and cleaned out everything that was important to you.
Wow.
And then a few days later, he said, you can stay here until you find a place to go. So instantly things changed around. And
This is the brother that wasn't talking to you? That it
Yeah.
kind of, okay, wow.
And I kept my end of the bargain. I continued to do the work. My life is completely different today because of it. I'm having the best time of my life I've ever had, and I, like everybody, things come your way you don't like, but now I deal with them, and I'm content in dealing with stuff that before I would just ignore and get drunk. And I haven't used any chemicals since, well, in over 2.5 years. So it was February of 22 or something like that. And I'm pretty happy right now. And so I got sober and I moved back into the city. I went into a sober living house and I stayed there for about 1.5 years. And I work for an agency that helps. The agency does a lot of things for mental health and people trying to get into recovery. But my job is to help people try and get into recovery and get services in the community. And so I tell everybody that my job is to try and get you in recovery, stay in recovery, and have a happy life, because I know it's possible. And I'm grateful for the life that I have. I am not, as they say in the big book, a glumot. I think that my life experience has given me the opportunity to be more empathetic and sympathetic with people. I tell everybody that I work with that, and I know this to be my case because I should back up a little bit. Prior to me, prior to my last detox, when I was living outside the city, I realized how things were just way out of control in my life, and I had seen therapists my whole life and just sat on the couch and bullshitted. And this time, I wanted to go see a therapist, and I wanted to work on some things to get rid of some stuff. Mainly my sexual abuse issues, and so I went to see a therapist who she was really dynamite, and I had seen her for a couple of months, and she basically said, "You're too messed up for me. I'm going to send you to somebody else," without saying that. But she turned me on to a therapist. She said, "I want you to do this kind of type of therapy that I'm not certified in," and she sent me to a therapist that was, and the guy's name is Sean. He's in Janesville. So if anybody's listening to this podcast, this guy's name is Sean Watkins, and he's phenomenal. He's in Janesville, works for Mercy Health Systems. But he did what's called EMDR therapy with me. And I don't know, it's eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. And I did that therapy, and it was terrifying because you basically go back to, I went back to the first time I remember being molested, and it was terrifying. But what happened was, a few weeks later, Sean had asked me, "Do you notice anything different?" And I said, I thought about it, and I was like, wow, this stuff hasn't popped into my head as often. And I thought I was having just memories of it. I didn't realize what I was having was flashbacks. And it was like, wow, it's not as, foremost in my mind. And then again, a few weeks later, he asked me if I'm noticing anything different, how it's going. And I thought about it, and it went from like being in living color and having texture and composition and flavor to being in black and white. And then again, he asked me a few weeks later if I was noticing anything, and I immediately got this very crystal clear vision in my head of all my trauma being drawn out on a chalkboard, and was just cloudy eraser marks on the board, and it was all just being erased. And now I can sit and relate my story of my abuse without having any authority whatsoever. I look at it like this: it's like you stub your toe, okay? It hurts, right? And then it doesn't hurt anymore, but you never think about it. It's an event, right? It's something that was real, that happened, but you never think about it. And that's how I think about my abuse and trauma growing up as a kid. It's something that happened, it hurt, and now it doesn't hurt, and I don't think about it. And the only time I do think about it is when I talk to people about it. And I never thought that I would get to this position. So that has a lot to do with where I am today, because I don't believe that if I would have not met Sean and done that work, I wouldn't be able to be clean and sober today, because I'm very much into what makes people tick that are sick, especially in chemical abuse issues. And I've come to the conclusion that, and from what I've learned and read and listened to, and I tell everybody I work with that if you do not get rid of what's inside of you that's keeping you sick, you're going to be sick. And it's not just because I want to get high. There's some reason you want to get high. And I like to think that I worked pretty hard to get rid of what's inside of me that was keeping me sick. Not to say that that was just it. I mean, I continue to take inventory all the time of myself, because I'm a work in progress, and I will always be a work in progress. And I think that my life evolves, is different every day. There's a lot of things that I need to work on in this program still that I haven't mastered, that I might never mastered. But one of the things that I do, and like I said at the beginning of this podcast, is I made a promise to God: if you hang in there with me, I'll do the work. And I continue to do the work. And every night, my last thought, I consciously make this my last thought, is to thank God for the day that I had. And I don't like to think that I have good days or bad days. There's just days that I don't want to repeat.
Mm.
And because every day I have is a gift. There's plenty of times where I should not have been here. So I'm very grateful for my higher power. And I know that, the book talks about a spiritual awakening. And when I saw that spiritual awakening, when I realized that it was happening, that it was real, I was pretty much shocked, because I was always waiting for this lightning bolt to come out of the sky and hit me. And I was in a meeting one time, and they were talking about how you wake up one day and your life is different and you can't explain it. And that's my case. My life is completely different, and I don't know how much of a part I had to play in that, but I know there's a higher power that threw a lot of effort in there, that worked a lot of overtime for me.
Mm.
And I give my higher power a lot of credit for that, because, like I said, I don't know how much of a part I had to play in that, but I know my higher power had a lot to do with it.
When did you get started with Alcoholics Anonymous? What made you switch from 18 years?
So I had dabbled in AA a little bit in the 10 years that I was on the relapse roller coaster. And every time I went to an AA meeting, I was like, man, I do not want to be around these depressing people. It's all these depressing stories. They just make me want to drink. And that's exactly what I did. And when after my last detox episode, I ended up in sober living, and I was required to go to AA.
Okay.
And so I went, but I was also very when I was in detox, I was like, man, I just want the life I had back. I really just wanted the life that I had back. And so I started going to meetings, and I would go to the meetings, and it would be my turn to talk, and I would just say, I'm going to pass. I'm just going to be a sponge. And that's what I was. I just soaked up what everybody had to say. And eventually one day it clicked. And things started to sink in that I just didn't understand. And so that's how I ended up in AA. And now I have met so many people that are invested in me that have helped me to gain the wisdom and knowledge and recovery that I need to hopefully stay clean and sober for the rest of my life. I don't, to right now, today, I'm relatively confident that I'm not going to go out and drink or get high. So I'm pretty confident today. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. I don't know what next week is going to bring or next month. But I do know that I've put in place the steps and learned a lot to prevent that from happening. And I've met a lot of people like you and my sponsor, and just people in the meetings that I go to, that I have put those things in place to prevent myself from going out and getting hammered. And because when I drink, um, there's no chance of me just having a couple of drinks. That's not even a thought. I know that if I'm going to go drink, I'm going to go get the biggest bottle of vodka I can find, and I'm going to lock the doors, turn off the phone. I'm just going to watch reruns of Gunsmoke until I'm pissing myself on the couch, and I'm so miserable. It will be a matter of days before I'm deciding which bridge I'm going to leap off of, and because that's where I was before. I had decided I was going to leap off a bridge, but I just didn't decide which one. I was so miserable.
In the last minute or two that we have left, can you describe what Tim W.'s recipe on a weekly basis, like how many meetings you go to? What do you said prayer every night? Are you doing big book? Do you have sponsees? What's that look like?
I sponsor a couple of people. A lot of my sobriety right now is a job that I'm in because I'm dealing with alcoholics and addicts all day long. So that gives me a lot of fuel. Because one of the biggest things about any 12-step program, whether it's AA, NA, or CA, is service. And so I pour myself into a lot of service work just through my job, but also I sponsor a couple of people. I go to at least 2 meetings a week. I never miss. I also take guys to meetings that are in my program that I work with. A lot of my program is self-inventory. I also go to therapy once a week. I love sitting on the couch. That has a lot to do with how I change my views about things, how I change what I think, how I act, how I behave, how I heal. So that has a lot to do with it. But AA is definitely central in my recovery. I like the grapevine. So thanks. Yeah, that's what I do. A lot of it is service. I love to help people, not only in AA, but I also just like to see people succeed in general. So like I have a friend that I met that just arrived here from Haiti, and I'm helping him to try and navigate the US and succeed here, especially because of the climate we have in this country today. Nothing makes me happier than seeing him succeed. And nothing really makes me happier than seeing anybody succeed. I'll end this by saying that 2 things. Like I said before, if you do not get rid of what's inside of you keeping you sick, you're going to stay sick. And I know that's easier said than done because I've been there. And some people, it's so deep that you may not even realize it's keeping you sick. But if you do some real soul searching and get some help, you'll figure it out. And the last thing I'll say is I always root for the underdog because you never know when you're going to be one.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your home and letting me come in here and hear your story.
You're welcome, and thank you for asking me.
Absolutely.